There's a new bar in town. Welcome to the Turnbuckle Arms, where the banter flows like wine and the topics are as fresh as an ice-cold pint. So pull up a chair, grab yourself a glass, and welcome your hosts, The Brood!
Hello, Internet, and welcome to a swift half with the Turnbuckle Arms. It is me, it's the Griz, the number one in the Big Johnny Wrestling Brainbuster Quiz. And with me today is Mr. Jason.
Hello.
How you doing, bud?
Hi, not bad, thank you. We had a few technical difficulties, but we worked through it, so here we are. This is good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's never a podcast with me if I don't have about 18 technical difficulties before we start. So 2 laptops later, we are here. And what are we here to talk about today in this swift half?
Wow, it is going to be our favourite gimmick matches. Not characters, yes. This is matches, this is.
Mm-hmm. And this is kind of one of these subjects where you can literally bring this up a whole bunch of times and it always be different. I mean, I wouldn't say like the match gimmick that I've picked is my favorite, but it's definitely one that I wanted to talk about because it is a bit more out there. Obviously, we'll get to that, but so why don't we kickstart it off with your favorite gimmick match, and then maybe just kind of talk about a couple of the matches that are your favorite ones of said gimmick.
Well, for me, I tried to go a little bit more outside the box as well, because I'm sure there's typical ones that people would say, but for me, I always get now more excited if I hear 2 out of 3 falls. I like long wrestling matches, and in the main, a 2 out of 3 falls match will that will be the expectation, really. I mean, you can always find the exception, but in the main, matches are going to be about 30-40 minutes. There's been some that have been very long that have happened in the past, but I love the idea of it, and there's a couple of ones that have been quite classics in my mind. I mean, Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano had one quite recently that was a really good match. And there's been other ones in the past. I think Okada and Omega had one as well. Yeah,
that one went, like nearly an hour and a half, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's stuff like that, and that's what I like the idea, because I just think, wow, they're just going and going and going, and I really like the idea of that. And also, it's just simple drama, really, because normally the heel gets the first one, then the babyface has to fight back to get the equalizer. Yeah, the big and then after that, then there's an instant, it's a dramatic finish kind of thing. So it makes simple, really. I mean, it's good logic. I love it. I do. And normally it's a blow off to a feud as well. That's the other part of it. Yeah. So that's what I quite like. I got some other matches. Do you want to list some that I got down as other classics?
Absolutely, go for it. I mean, just before you do, you did say that there is exceptions to the rule, and do you remember that weird period last year, I think it was, where WWE were insistent on never going to breaks? During matches, so they had everything be 2 out of 3 falls.
I'd blank that out. I do remember there was another one where I think Benoit won 2 straight, and that was it. It was it was a real short.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not sure if it was
UK tour. I'm
MVP,
not sure.
MVP feud.
Might have been. I don't know. It was just it won 2 straight, and I thought, oh, that was just really weird. That was that really.
What actually was the point in that?
Yeah, why do that? But no, so some of the, I mean, Kurt Angle and Benoit have had a couple of good ones. A 3 stages of hell match, is that still 2 out of 3 falls? I mean, that one's a questionable.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been 2 of them. There was Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and then there was Triple H and Austin. People like the Austin one. I was never that keen on that. I wasn't a fan of that one. Angle and Guerrero. Bryan Danielson and Sheamus is the one I remember most recently as well. That was the best one of their trilogy. But I may say trilogy because they had 2 WrestleMania matches and they had one of them.
Okay.
Quite a good one.
So what pay-per-view was that at? I don't seem to remember that one.
Don't quiz me on those type of things.
Okay.
And actually, Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn, which I haven't seen, but that took up a whole episode of an AXT episode, which I thought was quite a neat idea.
Oh, I think I remember that one.
And I won't go any more, but the another one was DIY and Revival.
Yes, of course.
That was a brilliant tag match, that was. So, I mean, there's some good ones. I mean, there's stuff I haven't seen, but there's just for people who want to go onto YouTube and have a look. CM Punk fought Chris Hero for 93 minutes.
Yes, in IWA Mid-South, I'm pretty sure that one.
Yeah, right.
That thing was... That was something else. That match, I actually sat and watched that match one day, the entire hour and a half. And...
Is that the one where Punk gets his head, his skull crushed? He cracked his skull open in that one. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, and then it was that kind of thing of the fact that he was able to finish the match is just absolutely bonkers.
Wait, yeah. And then the other one is Daniel Bryan and Austin Aries had a 75-minute match as well. So, I mean, for a person who likes long matches, like I mean, I don't want to go too far out, but an Iron Man match is something I quite enjoy. But I love the idea of a 2 out of 3 falls. It's just because in my mind you're getting free matches. Really, that's the way I kind of always. Yeah, so that's my little bit. I'm going to let you take over at this moment.
Well, yeah, an Iron Man match is a good show. It's like kind of way. It's like the tension and the storytelling in that match is insane. But also, again, that's that kind of thing where it can be done wrong, just depending on your booking. So I've kind of went in a completely different direction here, and I would, as I kind of mentioned, this isn't exactly my favorite gimmick, but it was one I wanted to bring up because I feel like it kind of gets overshadowed, and there's a lot of people that kind of look at it and be like, oh, it's too convoluted, it's a bit stupid, and blah, blah, blah. But and looking at the talent in some of these matches, I went for the King of the Mountain match for my side of the conversation.
So what company does that one then?
That's TNA/Impact Wrestling.
Right, okay then. All right, yeah, I do remember now. Go on then. So just explain the rules, because that one doesn't jump out at me then.
Okay, so I take it that you've maybe not seen many or any?
I think I've seen one. I don't even know if I actually have seen one.
Right, well, I'll read out the rules and see if it comes to mind for you. So we get beer for the working man.
Hey.
Okay, so it starts off with 5 competitors. I think it's always been 5 competitors. And none of them are eligible to win the match. To become eligible, you must pin or submit an opponent, and then the opponent that has been defeated will then go into the penalty box for 2 minutes. Once the person that's pinned someone, they become eligible to then take the championship and hang it above the ring.
Right. So it's like a reverse ladder match.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But it works though. Like, okay, people say it's a bit convoluted, and yes, maybe it might be a wee bit, but after you watch a couple of them, you get the hang of it. And some of the people that have been in these matches, like you've got Ron Killings, who's R-Truth, who's been in a good amount of them. You've got your AJ Styles, you've got your Jeff Jarrett's, you've got Abyss, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Christian Cage, Robert Roode, Booker T, Rhino, Drew McIntyre. It's a big who's who of has appeared in these matches, and sometimes they do it for different belts, but it was mainly always the world title. And so, like Mick Foley as well, just another glancing name. And the way that it has so many different aspects, I think, is part of the reason as to why it works quite well. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like a strategy kind of thing, because once you're eligible, you're still allowed to pin other opponents. So there's people that are trying to, like, they became eligible halfway through the match, but then they see an opportunity to pin someone, so that takes somebody else out of the equation.
Right.
I think there was like a spot once where there was specifically one wrestler that was trying to eliminate everybody so that they would all be in the penalty box at the same time, so they could just
walk
run
straight
up with the belt.
Okay.
And it was like a frantic kind of like rush to eliminate everyone, and then by the time they started setting up the ladder, the first person that was eliminated came out of the penalty box and then back into the match to kind of save it for everybody else.
Okay then, all right, I can see that. Okay. But am I right in thinking, because I think the first one won by Jarrett?
Yes.
Yeah, and that, because the point was it was his company at the time, and that it just made everyone go, so now what, you're now the greatest. I do remember that. I don't remember ever it happening again after that. I don't think I watched anymore after that.
Yeah.
But I just remember it looked like Jarrett had set it up so he could make himself champion very quickly. It just seemed a really strange way of doing it. But was it
early TNA shows are very weird with the Jarrett Triple H style booking?
Yeah, because it was originally him and Vince Russo, wasn't it? They were at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that Jerry Jarrett, I think, was kind of involved, but the story goes with TNA that Jarrett kind of used the money that he managed to get from Vince McMahon when he held up the Intercontinental title.
So he wouldn't do the job to China.
Yeah. So he got like, what was it, something like $250,000 or something?
Yeah,
ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And then apparently that's what went into the early days of TNA.
Oh, right, okay.
So the story goes. It may not be 100% accurate, but I mean, I would imagine it would probably be somewhat.
So how many of those shows have there been then? Because, I mean, you mentioned Drew McIntyre, which was, I can't remember last time he was in TNA. That was, I know he did a stint in there, but that was a new one to me, that was.
Yeah, so what they'd done was, for the most part, they used the King of the Mountain match every year for...
Bound for Glory?
Slammiversary, actually.
Slammiversary, okay.
Yeah. So the first one started when they were still doing their weekly pay-per-views, which was June 2nd, 2004. Right. And it seems as if it mostly always happened in June. So 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and then 2015. Slammiversaries all had King of the Mountain matches. And then we get into the weird kind of bit because, and just to kind of answer the question that you're asking there, Drew Galloway was in the match on 2015 Slammiversary.
Right, okay, all right.
So it was, Jesus, that was 5 years ago. Oh. It feels like bloody yesterday that Drew was back in Impact. And then they brought in the King of the Mountain Championship. And this is kind of when you had these more weird matches, because PJ Black, who you might know as Justin Gabriel, won the King of the Mountain Championship in a really bizarre lineup. PJ Black defeated Lashley, Chris Mordetsky, who's Chris Masters, Eric Young, and Robbie E. Right,
okay. That wasn't was that a main event?
No, that was...
Sounds like a starter match, that does.
The King of the Mountain title was absolutely nowhere near a main event belt. And then they only done like two more after that. And in fact, 2016 was the last time a King of the Mountain match happened.
And was that for the world title or the King of the Mountain title?
The King of the Mountain title.
That's like, I mean, I was the other gimmick stuff I was looking at was Hell in the Cell. And the reason why I mean, I could still talk about it, but when it became a pay-per-view in itself, that really diluted the whole value of what what you were doing. If you're just going to use just you kind of chuck it away kind of thing. I mean, the idea that the King of the Mountain match was a build up to the title, it meant something at one point.
Yeah.
And then you attach it to a title that's sounds like it's equivalent of 24/7 belt. If you attach,
didn't last very long.
If you attach it to something that's not worth anything, you go, well, okay, this doesn't have any value. Where I'll talk about the Hell in a Cell. I mean, the Hell in a Cell to me that's the most extravagant style of gimmick. And actually, the first one, again, the goal was you couldn't trust Shawn Michaels to stay in the ring with The Undertaker, so they had to lock him in, and they had to make a roof on top to make sure he couldn't escape. And so the idea of a cage match normally being the blow off to a feud, this was something else. Because I mean, the show before was Ground Zero. I really enjoyed this one because The Undertaker walks up, turns around, punches the referee, and then all hell broke loose. And I was like, yes, this is brilliant. So then I think the next night's when The Undertaker actually got bled, when he hit him with the chair and he cut him open, and then it became a bit more. But the other thing is, Hell in a Cell was good kind of before the PG era. That was that was when actually you thought you're going to see something really violent. It's going to be really intense.
It's going to be bloody.
Yeah, and so those, I mean, the early matches, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels was just, I mean, that one, even though the Mankind one's the most known,
yeah,
I would say that was because Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker one was a match that played out logically and everything worked and went correctly. Where actually Mankind's one, a lot of stuff didn't actually go as planned, and those type of things where you had epic fails that almost killed somebody. I mean, it wasn't meant to come off in the manner he did at the top. I don't think he was meant to come through the floor at all.
No.
So when you've got stuff like that going on, this is like, is this a great match or is it a disaster that they pulled together at the end, really? I mean, that's the... but, I mean, if you haven't seen... I can't believe someone listened to this podcast has not seen Undertaker against Mankind. But if you haven't, you need to see it because it is absolutely epic. Another couple of good ones. I mean, Triple H fought Cactus Jack in his... one career-ending match wherever we
retirement.
And that had a planned spot where they went through the cell. But that looked great. That did look great because they even dented the ring on the impact of that one.
I know that did look phenomenal.
It did look good. But I mean that's the other one. And then the other, there's a couple of others. I mean, Shane was in a couple where he jumped off the cage. Which is kind of a cool stunt. And actually, the two women's matches have been good. Charlotte against Sasha and Sasha against Becky they've been good Hell in a Cell matches. But I just always thought when the card became the focus of it, it just meant some feuds that really didn't deserve a Hell in a Cell match. Rusev against Roman Reigns was a match, and some of these you go, oh, okay, why is that a Hell in a Cell match? Where actually it was meant to be. They need to be controlled. It's going to be violent. They're built up to this. So
I'm pretty sure there's been matches sometimes where the first match in the feud was at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and they just put it in Hell in a Cell because, it was Hell in a Cell time of year. And it is quite frustrating in that way that, like, sometimes that's happened. It's like, I mean, because also, like, remember that during the era of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, they then brought that back for The Undertaker and Triple H at WrestleMania. Yes. And then people were like, yeah, but, you've really diluted the Hell in a Cell concept now.
But then they were allowed to do hardcore things, weren't? That's the other thing. I think there was a chair shot to the head. There was stuff in that one which actually you hadn't been allowed to do in the other tamer versions, which is, I mean, because of who they are, they got to get away with stuff that others weren't allowed to do, which is a bit cheeky. But I think that I was going to say to you is, I think gimmick matches work when they're part of a feud, when they're part of story and they make sense.
Absolutely. When it's gotten too personal to just be wrestling. Yeah.
I mean, there was a daft one. Can you remember? Rick Martel blinded Jake the Snake. Do you know this one?
Yeah.
And they had a blindfold match. I thought that was great.
And it made sense.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't the greatest match, but
to an extent,
it made sense as to why it happened. And I think that's the best part, is when you go, okay, now we've built to this. You've had no holds barred. Oh, we've got a cat in here, and we've got through these different things. I mean, Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole had multiple matches, so they had to have a 2 out of 3 falls match to make sense. And so I think that works best. Even though, I mean, every year I do love the Royal Rumble. I mean, it has to happen in that way. So there is Royal Rumble season is a thing, and so I do get that part. But I do think a good gimmick match has to be part of a story that makes sense. I absolutely like that. That's my best part of it.
But yeah, that's that kind of thing. It's like, could you imagine, like, right, we have the Royal Rumble in January, and then randomly on Raw one night we just decide to have like a Royal Rumble because we need to find the #1 contender. And it's like the Royal Rumble's good because it's only once a year, or in that one occasion where we had the greatest Royal Rumble, which was the greatest because it was 50 people.
It was all. I mean, Daniel Bryan did do 72 minutes or something like that. He beat Rey Mysterio. He beat Rey Mysterio, and then he realised what Saudi Arabia was like and vowed never to go back. So
that's enough of that. Oh, Jesus. God, I think we could do a whole one of these on just the Saudi shows at this point. Because, like, those shows are really weird because they don't fall under, like, the rest of, like, WWE lore sometimes.
Canon.
It's so odd.
They're outside of it, aren't they? It's like, I guess if you felt like, well, I mean, literally you are performing for an audience of one. It just happens that we're looking over the curtain, we're looking over the fence, and we can see the same show that they're watching, going, oh, this is different. This is. So you've got, and I mean, some of the matches, when you heard Undertaker talk about because was it? No, it wasn't Australia. It was the Saudi match where Shawn Michaels came out of retirement, wasn't it?
Yeah, DX and Brothers of Destruction.
Yeah, he talks about it on the Last Ride documentaries and how embarrassed he was by that whole, because it was an awful match. I mean, that tag team match was terrible.
Oh, I don't remember it being that bad, to be honest. But
Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Triple H tears his at the very beginning.
Tears his titty.
And then Shawn Michaels tried a moonsault off the top, and both
almost killed himself.
Missed him entirely. I mean, well, it was one of these times where you thought, "Oh, Undertaker." I mean, I thought Shawn should have held some responsibility. Nobody seemed on top form in that match.
Yeah, and then there's also a part where Kane's mask comes off.
Yes.
And there's a part during the match where you could literally hear Shawn Michaels like lying beside Triple H and goes, "We're too old for this." It's like, man, like, at least you can see it.
Yeah,
like, you got out while you were still kind of young. You probably still had a couple of decent years left.
Yeah, I mean, he could have. Yeah, I mean, I could see him being able to come back now and probably still perform at the same level. I mean, AJ Styles tried to float that boat, didn't he? He put out a tweet trying to get him out. I mean, he did it to the Undertaker and actually got a match, so it was obviously worth a try. So, well, I mean, we're going to, we won't touch upon other kind of, which will be our later podcast. We won't touch upon those kind of flinty matches. Did you have any other gimmick matches that came to mind, or were they the ones that really stood out to you?
Well, no, I think you picked some really good ones there. Well, so instead, why don't we very quickly talk about some weird and not very good gimmick matches, because we're going to go back to TNA because we have the reverse battle royal. So
what? Everyone was outside?
Yes.
Oh. And tell me this is Vince Russo booking, isn't it?
Probably. I'm pretty sure. So the reverse battle royal was all the wrestlers come out and stand on the outside of the ring, and then there's about 20 wrestlers, I think it was, or 20, 25, and then you all fight, and then the first 16 people to get in will advance to stage 2, the standard battle royal, and then they get thrown over. And And then probably because it's TNA, when it gets down to the final two, it then turns into a singles match.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh.
And of course, TNA done more than one of these. And it is again, it's like, I don't know if it's just because I just love a bit of carnage, but I always found them fun because just like 20 odd wrestlers just wrestling around the outside of the ring, fighting to get in and everything, and they done all right in terms of like managing to build kind of like
tension.
Thank you, because one of the ones they done was this wrestler Chris Harris, who was on a losing streak, and he was getting like really angry and kind of upset all the time about everything. Right, go away, fatso. Go. And so he climbed in the ring, but it turns out that somebody like 2 seconds beforehand climbed in the ring, and that made up the 16. So he climbed in. He was like, "I did it," and then the rest were like, "No, you're out, dude." And he's like, "What?" Just to kind of further that kind of storyline. So,
oh my goodness.
But
I mean, David Arquette is the one that comes to my mind because of how he won the title. Because I mean that was Russo's thing, was always putting singles titles on the line during a tag team match for whatever reason. He did that lots of times, which never really made a lot of sense. And then the cage looked amazing in that WC. I'm trying to think, what was it called? A Thunder Cage? Am I going to make that up?
Just the triple cage match. There is a Thunderdome match, but
Thunderdome, wasn't it? I thought it was, but it looked great. But it was just so crazy that one level it was a regular cage, which looked like a Hell in a Cell, but it just had other boxes on top. Yeah. But then it had like weapons inside the other one, and then they climbed to the top, and the belt was hanging from the top and everything like this.
Yeah, I think there was like a guitar room in one of them. So it was like one room just full of guitars.
And I'd love to do one on Vince Russo because I think he's fascinating and offensive. I'm never sure where to put him. Should he be in the Hall of Fame, or is he just horrendous? I think it's that kind of tension, because if he has got fingerprints on some of the more famous people, which he claims he has, then maybe he should be. Or, I mean, some of the stuff where he came up with one gimmick. He did one gimmick. We did a 2 out of 3 falls, and it was Dean Malenko and I think it was Benoit. And the whole point was that they had a regular wrestling match, and then they had a dungeon match where they took the ropes off the ring, and you weren't allowed to roll out the ring because that would be a loss. So Dean Malenko forgot the rules and rolled right out the ring, and that was the end of the match.
10 seconds or something into the match.
And they all looked at each other and went, "Oh, that's it." Well, and it was meant to build up to something else, and when the match, the rules are so convoluted, you go, "Well, I can't follow them. This is crazy. This is."
Absolutely. I mean, there's this book that I have. Yes, I do sometimes read. It's very rare. I think I only bought it because it was quite short, but
it rhymes. It's Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat was a great film. But it is a book of bizarre pro wrestling matches with stipulations. I think it's something that I'm going to need to break out sometime for, maybe if we do like a Vince Russo thing, because I'm pretty sure there is like massive parts of that book that are all just talking about Vince Russo made products.
Well, I went to the States. This is quite a while ago when I was living in Canada. I went to the States part way, and I found this wildest matches DVD, really low rent stuff. Okay. Terry Funk was on it, but it was Terry Funk fighting somebody else.
Ooh, that reminds me of something.
There was a very small cage in the middle of the ring, and it had the belt in, and it had a snake. And the whole goal was to get your hand in before the snake bit you. So I mean, there was those kind of matches, but then there's all the other ones we haven't talked about. Is like the explosion stuff in Japan and those type of things. But I'm trying to be very cautious of the time that we've got, and somebody will have a go at us if we end up going too long.
Now, someone have a go at me, because it'll be my fault.
Do you want to say your Terry Funk tidbit, or do you want to leave that one?
Well, it wasn't about Terry Funk, but there was this other convoluted. This is from a really like kind of low rent promotion, Ken, as you said, where there was this wrestler that was clearly the booker and owner of the company. So they had this match once where it was a box that was locked, and inside the box was the belt and a live snake. But to add on to that, there was also a ladder match to get the key to the box. So you
give them everything. That's the way to go.
Yeah, just set the ropes on fire and have the factions like on the outside as well.
The Good Brothers have just done their own kind of backyard event.
Man, you're really covering a lot of stuff that I've just done in my other podcast recently, because I reviewed that show and then I also spoke about exploding death matches.
Oh, right. Well, because he didn't they have a social distancing battle royal?
They did, yeah.
I thought it was a clever idea. That one made me laugh. That did. I love the idea.
It was neither social nor distancing. But Freight Train was in it, and Freight Train is you know, it's something else.
So which one of the King of the Mountain matches would you suggest people should see?
Well, I do have a favorite, but that might just be purely because of who comes out on top. But that being the Slammiversary 2005 one, where Raven, AJ Styles, Monty Brown, Abyss, and Sean Waltman, or X-Pac, wrestled. But I would probably say one of the best ones would probably be, and especially in terms of talent, you got Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christian Cage, and Chris Harris from Slammiversary 2007 right now because I can't hear him. I'm not good at mouth reading either, lip reading. So if you haven't already, do I plug the Twitter, or have you just done that?
No, you do that. You do whatever needs to be done. You.
Well, I guess we'll just wrap up there. Follow us on Twitter at. God damn it! I had all this ready, and this whole thing has completely threw me off. Why technology? Why don't you just do things? So is it at the Turnbuckle Arms? Yes, so at the Turnbuckle Arms, where we will share this. And, well, thank you, Jason, for joining us. And I'm so sorry that this happened again, but at least it happened right as we were about to finish. So it could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
So, thanks to everyone who listens, and, well, see Foxy, I guess.
Bye.